What are worldviews? What does it mean to say that we tend to look at and see the world and all of life around us in a certain way? I'm Mark Gilbert here, and in this brief video, we'll be reviewing the concept that what we hold true about the world tends to drive how we see the world. The idea of worldviews was first introduced to me by the theory of spiral dynamics, which we'll look at in a later video. To get a sense of what we mean by worldviews, what I'd like you to do is to consider your response to the following questions. Which of these terms best describes you? Religious, agnostic, atheist, spiritual? What do you think happens to you when you die? What's more important to you? Being a good person and having rewards later after this life? Or gathering as much wealth and power as you can in this lifetime? What do you think is the most likely future scenario for humanity? The rapture will come and take true believers to heaven? Science and technology can and will solve all of our challenges? We'll recognize we're spiritual beings having this human experience and then be called the good stewards of the planet and create a world that works for everyone? Were you able to answer these in your mind? How were you able to come up with an answer? You see, we all carry around in our awareness a general sense of how the world works. What's our role? What's the role of religion, science, and spirituality? What's truly important about life and why we exist? What's the moral code by which we make choices each day and why we act the way we do? Although we don't tend to think much about our worldview, we do have one. And we tend to share a package of similar ideas or worldviews with others. Our group, our tribe, those who look at life much like we do. Different theorists have outlined different descriptors for commonly held worldviews. There's not one generally accepted set of worldviews agreed upon by everyone. But there are some commonalities and viewpoints that we'll offer to you in a moment. First, though, let's look at things that could be considered as part of your larger world viewpoint. Different worldviews could contain different ideas about why humans exist and the purpose of life. What we see as the life conditions out there in the world. What our motivations should be to meet world conditions. How human groups should best be organized. What's our best leadership style for our organizations? If there are spirits or gods in the world, then what's their role in relationship to us? To help you better understand it, here's what Wikipedia says currently about worldviews. Each person's worldview is a comprehensive set of opinions seen as a coherent whole about what the world is, how the world works, and the nature of human existence. Our worldview serves as a framework for generating various dimensions of human perception and experience, like knowledge, politics, economics, religion, culture, science, and ethics. Our worldview may consist of assumptions so basic and unexamined that it may go unnoticed, even though it's frequently used for the basis of forming beliefs and making decisions. Our worldview may include assumptions including basic human nature, the creation of the earth, the origins of biodiversity, the relationships of cause and effect, the nature of good and evil, the trustworthiness of the government, the reliability of science, the role of religion, basic moral principles, basic scientific principles, and other foundational assumptions. Ending the quote from Wikipedia. So why are worldviews important? First, they shape how we see the world. Psychology has shown us that what we believe to be true shapes our filters of what we actually see and allow into our awareness. We tend to let into our awareness those things that match our viewpoint. This is good to know if we're doing any kind of self-growth or introspection. We should always be looking to understand why it is we think and believe what we do. A second important reason worldviews are important are that as we communicate with others, it can be helpful to recognize that not everybody looks at the world the same way. It's easy for us to believe there's just only one way to see the world, the way we see it. And when we believe that way, it's difficult to find common ground with others. Hence, understanding the worldviews of others can enhance our ability to effectively communicate with people with different beliefs. So what are some of the more common worldviews? Again, there's many ways of dividing viewpoints up, especially in either-or categories, such as religious or secular, or authoritarian versus democratic, and so on. However, what I'd like you to consider is that there are currently three major viewpoints predominant at play out in the modern world. Most people you encounter currently will fall into one of these three general classifications. The first I would call traditionalist. They tend to believe there's clear-cut boundaries between right and wrong, that organizations with hierarchies, such as the government or religion, detail the boundaries or laws or religious books that are to be strictly followed. They call for deferring earthly rewards or for gifts to be given to us in heaven or later. It's important to control our impulses in this viewpoint. Therefore, these are the most readily identified as people in the world who are religious fundamentalists. The second classification are what I would call the materialist. They tend to believe that everything is matter and science will eventually learn all the rules as to how matter operates. They believe that the role of life is to accumulate wealth and to power. They deny God as a myth of the religious, and they see life as a competition. This group is most readily seen with scientists, Wall Street bankers, and atheists. The third large group that we encounter in the modern world are what I call egalitarians, or the humanitarians. They tend to believe that all humans are equal, that they need to be treated with dignity. They value the planet and the resources and see it as being available for the good of all. They seek to erase poverty, racism, and they believe in the power of personal growth and developing themselves. They tend to be spiritual, but not religious. More could be said about each one of these levels, but for now, what's important is that you see that these different viewpoints exist, and that much of our current cultural wars can be seen as to how these different groups vary in how they actually see the world. A useful next video after this one is the one on spiral dynamics that takes the idea of worldviews and puts it into an evolutionary context. Until next time.